not in the heart.
But never, never?
It can be, yes. I mean, we are all different. But what, like, I mean, if you have an experience, like you, let's say you are in, someone close to you is in a crisis. Like, and you are present there, and you feel touched by it, or don't you have any like movements?
Not necessarily, not always.
No.
It could be just a
No, that's also, this is also, when people feel, oh, I need to be compassionate always. We are not, because we also are souls. So everyone. So it's unrealistic to feel. But if you kind of free yourself from any ideas how compassion should look like, or what it is, or how it feels, so rather you look. So what happens in my energy? What is my experience when I'm touched? Yeah? And this could be like an energy in your hands. It could be the way you look. There could be a change in your face. There could be movements in your eyes. There could be so all kinds of. I mean, from a tantric point of view, compassion is a function of the subtle energy body, which is not localized in the heart, or so it's everywhere. So I'm sure it's not that you don't have or that you don't experience compassion. Maybe you are not tuned into, or you don't feel the subtle movements of wanting to reach out, like, oh yeah. So like when I say, oh yeah, I understand. So where do I feel that? Right now I feel it in my hands. I feel it in my voice. It's not like here.
But it still can feel suppressed, no? So maybe your tone changes, maybe a small feeling in your heart, but maybe it's not genuine, or you suppress it, maybe. That's how I feel.
It could be the something in us doesn't want to be touched. So it could be that there is, like, when you actually feel a movement forward, or you feel that tears coming up, or you feel a movement towards that person, that you suppress it because you're afraid of feelings. I mean, I know that you're a compassionate person. I can feel it. I can see it. Other people can see it.
But how do you know? It's? I mean, how do you know it's genuine compassion when it's not rather maybe your own emotions that you react with?
It's inborn human knowledge that as social beings we recognize kindness in each other. We are hardwired to it. And it's not, it's like it's an intuitive human feeling that this is a person which is kind, which has a warmth. It's part of our survival instincts to respond to that. This makes this made us this successful species. I mean, there's other stuff, but it's because that, and we are, in neuropsychology they describe the they call it the mirror neurons. So this is like every baby is born with that, to respond and to give on that level. It's a human instinct. One part of this is, and it's actually an important part, which makes it very difficult for people to, make the compassion practices within Tibetan Buddhism meaningful for them, because an important part of knowing compassion is to have received it. Yeah, and so in most of us, more or less, we have, we grew up in an environment where that was lacking a bit, because our parents were busy and they wanted our best, but so part of compassion training could be also to learn to receive warmth and kindness and compassion, and to feel how it feels to be held. And the mentor bonding process in the Tibetan tradition is one of the ways to do that. So that's why sometimes people are so drawn to the Tibetan teachers, because that's for some people the first time that space opens for them. It's actually possible to be loved. But so, and then in therapy, in psychotherapy, that would be also part of that opening up and being vulnerable without being judged. So that, and then you have an experience. And so if you would continue just to do the loving kindness meditation, without working on that, it would probably be just like a kind of fake superficial practice. Still okay, nothing wrong with that, but there's something missing. And then it's so it's very personal. So we don't need to be compassionate like another person. We all have our ways to express when we care, or when we like someone, or when we care, when we feel some warmth towards a person. We all express it differently.
I feel sometimes that what kind of might prevent myself from receiving the compassion or giving the compassion is my own emotions, or what I'm dealing with in my head at the moment, even longer.
Yes, so the compassion training has a lot to do with losing the fear of emotions, of feelings, becoming curious about it, creating spaces where you allow yourself to feel your feelings. And as I said in the beginning, compassion sounds so wonderful, but it is difficult, because it has to do with being present to your pain, allowing waves of emotion to go through, being not threatened by emotions in other people. So if you have a healthy meditation practice, that's what you do. So you explore your inner life, and you allow it to be. You feel your feelings, and so on and so on. There's also many people who use meditation for bypassing all of that, but that would be an unhealthy kind of meditation.
What's the difference between empathy and compassion?
It depends how you define it. So. Yeah.
There must be a difference.
No, it's what you define. I mean, if you use the word sympathy, you use the word empathy, you use the word love, you use the word compassion. Everyone uses this differently.
No, sympathy is completely different than empathy.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's good for you.
The definition is also there is a difference.
Yeah, but what is the definition? So
question.
yeah, but you using a certain definition for sympathy. Yeah, so you single something out and then you make a list of, oh, this is sympathy.
You can be sympathy. You.
Yeah, but
I
all
find
you
the
say now is
sympathy
based
that
on your
really-
definition of what sympathy is, your idea of what sympathy is. So I'm using this word a bit like right now I can give you like a Buddhist definition, yeah, but so who cares? I'm using these words quite loosely. I'm talking about a mystery. I'm talking about a jewel, and there's what you might want to say: sympathy, empathy, compassion, love. It's all part of that jewel of warmth of bodhicitta. And if one has benefits of knowing what sympathy is, then I can look into a book and how is Freud defining sympathy. Jung's definition of sympathy or empathy is different. In Buddhist psychology, they have strange definitions of love and compassion. But
that was
so,
my pause.
When I that's also with the word love, So you have a response to that word. Yeah, because because we have all connotations with it, with love. It sounds like American cheesy, or it's like romantic.
There's a lot of
Yeah,
different things that one word says.
So maybe I could rather say bodhicitta. So and on top of that, when I use the word love, I add also the wisdom aspect in it. So when I say love, here now, love, it has nothing to do with I love you. It's not dualistic. But we all know what I'm talking about, isn't it? I mean, we all know, So like so like I look at you, I don't care if it's sympathy or empathy or compassion or love. It's much more than that. Yeah, and then I can kind of, there's a sympathy aspect, and there's empathy, and then there's a compassion, and then there's a love, and then I can have a discussion and read 800 pages about sympathy, love, compassion, what it is. But it never describes what is happening. And still we know what it is, and we recognize it in us and in others. So let's do a meditation, but I want to, in that meditation, reflect a bit on one of the verses. So I make a big jump into 22. Whatever arises in experience is your own mind. This is mind-blowing. And this is a very crucial insight within the Tibetan tradition. That everything, what you experience right now, is an appearance in your mind, is an appearance in consciousness. Of course, you obviously have the sense that you look at me, but the visual experience of what you say, oh, this is Stefan out there, is a mental hologram. in your mind. Yeah. So this is something really interesting or important to kind of explore. Yeah. So, the cars, they are actually in my mind. The experience is happening in consciousness. My feelings, my memories, my anger it's all movements within consciousness. And what are they made of? From consciousness. They are made from the stuff your dreams are made. It's the same stuff. You never ever have or will be an experience outside of consciousness. You will never ever have the experience of an outside world. You will never ever be able to prove that there is an outside world. You can look very quickly. Maybe you can outrun your mind. No. It's not possible. You can't get out of it. Yeah. So I'm not saying, so it's not like a solipsism it's called, like, so, I'm not discussing if there's an outside world or not, or how is it made. Just this undeniable fact that your experience, yeah, is happening in your mind. It's an appearance in your mind. So that's why mind training is so important. Yeah, also the knocking, the experience of, this is an appearance in my mind. Yeah? Mind itself is free of any conceptual limitations. Oh, I shouldn't have chosen this first. Mind itself is free of any conceptual limitations. So this is that which knows this appearances is free of anything. It just knows. So mind itself, that knowingness, that which is aware, is free of conceptual limitations. It's open space. It's like the sky, which gives space to all the birds and the clouds and the planes and everything, but the sky itself is free of any stuff. Yeah? Know that. So that's the recognition of the knowingness, the recognition, the awareness of awareness itself. Know that. That's what is called also pointing out instructions. That is when in the Mahamudra teachings, the teacher transmits the experience of the sky-like nature. Know that, and don't entertain subject-object fixations. So don't entertain subject-object fixation means the root cause for suffering is the dualistic split between I and the other. That is the subject-object fixation. So, and in the moment where there is this split, I and feelings, then it's I and my feelings, and then it's I and don't like this feeling. And then comes harmful behavior out of. So it starts with this dualistic split. That's the distortion of reality. We make up the subject and the object. Yeah. So, and all that is happening in mind. So the I is created by the mind, the separation is created by the mind, the object is created by the mind. So in this meditation now, I would like to kind of just explore a bit the experience of how your experience is happening within consciousness, that they're actually in this way of sitting, kind of the boundary between in and outside starts to collapse. Yeah? With sound, that is quite easy. Yeah? So like, listening to my voice, or maybe I will ring the bell. I like to have this, to just having this inquiry. So where is the sound? Is it in the same place as my thoughts, my feelings? Is it in different two places? But where's the boundary between sound and thoughts? Isn't it happening in the same place? And if, where is that place? So this is, for this, of course, it's good to kind of put all the books about neuropsychology and brain and so, like kind of materialistic rationalism into the shelf. I mean, you can take them with you again after, they are still quite useful. But if, so like what we rely here upon is not what we read in so-called scientific books. We rely upon our own inquiry. Not kind of having read in books that somehow thoughts and brain are connected, but actually, how is it in my experience? If I wouldn't know that there's some connection between thoughts and brain, how would this moment be? No, the brainwashing of the brain science makes us feel that somehow when we think it's happening here. But when we kind of drop that, where is it actually happening? By looking myself. I'm not denying that there's a correlation between brainwaves and thinking. So, but how is it in your own experience? And then one way to kind of relax this dualistic split is to drop the word. I did it already a little bit in other meditation. To drop the word mine, my, I. This is me. I'm not saying it is like that. This is like a meditative technique. So we don't need to debate that. Like, yeah, but this is my thoughts and that's your thoughts. Yeah. So, but just like as an experiment. So what would happen if, like, if there's a car? No, it's quite natural to say, not to say, oh, this is my car. And it's my car because it's happening in my experience. Yeah. But if there's a thought happening, we say, it's my thought because it's happening in my experience. So in that moment, if we don't put that etiquette, my, on it, so what happens? So that's kind of a bit of a way to get a sense when this dualistic split starts to heal or starts to dissolve. Nothing, and this is from one sutra, the Buddha, nothing in your experience is worth to be called me, mine, or myself. This seems absurd because we have a sense there's thoughts, there must be someone thinking them. Hey, and it's me, it's my thoughts. There's a feeling. So there must be someone who has the feeling. Yeah, it's me, it's my feelings.
So you're suggesting they're not our feelings?
No.
So I have thoughts, but they're not mine. No.
Yes, so that's what we kind of play with right now. So when you say they are not mine, so who could that be? Who is the owner of the thoughts? Because if you say these are my thoughts, so there must be an I who can be designated as the owner of these thoughts. And so who would that be? So that would be another road to go here, to not find the owner. And if there's no owner, there can't be possession. And of course, you can come up with some kind of owner, but these are also just thoughts. So you could say, yeah, it's like, it's me. It's like, it's me, yeah. It's like, I'm a woman, I'm Swiss, I'm living here, and I have this past and this history, I have this duty, I have this personality, and so on and so on. So you can tell all kinds of stories about that I, which is the owner, but these are all thoughts. So who is the owner of these thoughts? Yeah, I could see in your eyes that you were looking in the right direction.
Everywhere.
It's like, it's a panic, you know? Who is it? Who is it? Yeah, so, and everything you would find as a possible answer is an object. No, maybe you come up with a kind of sense here, like, yeah, it's me, it's always me, you know, it's me. And then, but then you look at it and you see, wow, this is an object. Yeah, I'm really aware of that. This is me. I'm really aware that this is me. So who is that? Who is aware of this is really me? So there's at least two of you. There's the one who is me, and there's the one who knows it's me. The backup me, yeah.
There's a little man in there.
Yeah. Okay, so let's sit a bit, just 50 minutes. With, let's take just some time to connect with your inner life and just some quiet moments with yourself without the need to do something. So adjusting the posture and softening. And sliding into being here, or noticing that you are here already. Allow thoughts to go a bit into the background, so they continue to come and go, but you don't emphasize them as much. You can anchor a bit with the breath or with your hands, but the direction is towards open awareness, panoramic awareness. And only when you find yourself really entangled in the stream of thinking, you make a gentle gesture back into the trunk of your body, dropping into your body, maybe supported by the breath. Resting. Returning. Then it could be possible to release some of the unnecessary tension in your belly and your shoulders, or by just letting go. And if there's something coming to the foreground, pleasant or unpleasant, you allow that to happen. So the first pointer here in this verse is everything you experience within consciousness, within mind, within awareness. So just look around in the field of your experience. Is there anything that you experience right now with is not happening within awareness, within consciousness, within mind? So go to the kind of the border, the boundary of your experience. Is there anything? Would you find anything from your past which was not experienced within consciousness, within mind, within awareness? So these are called appearances. Sensations, sounds, thoughts, feelings, taste, smell, mental images, memories, worries, definitions. These are appearances within awareness. So I invite you to broaden your awareness into the surroundings. Maybe you can hear the bird, probably. So the experience of the bird singing, is it inside, outside? Where's the experience? I'm not saying that there's no bird out there, I'm just asking where's the experience of the bird? Because that's all you have. Is it outside of your body, inside of your body? Is it in a different place than my voice? And then if you take a sensation in your body, something which stands out, is the bird happening in another place, in another space? And where would be the boundary between the sensation in your belly or wherever, and the singing of the bird and my voice? Where is it happening? So then the sense of I, like maybe you have a sense of your mental image of your body, like kind of a bit of a compactness. But that's I'm here, that is me. So that is an experience in consciousness. Is it happening in another place, in another space than the bird singing or this voice? Just look. Don't think about it. Look. The sense of your body, the mental image of your body, sense of being here is an appearance in your mind, is appearance in awareness. And where is it? Where is it happening? Look. Is the experience of the bird made from something else than the experience of the sensations in your body? Kind of another material or something? And then thoughts. They are appearances within mind, within consciousness. And where's the boundary between the experience of the bird singing and your thoughts? Now, if you get confused, then return to a bit of anchoring with the breath. Anchoring with the breath as an experience in mind and consciousness. also add the noise of the car if you can hear it sometimes. Is it the experience of the cars? Is it in a different place than the bird? The thoughts, sensations. What is inside? What is outside? So now we add something else, and that is dropping the concept of me and mine. So just imagine that could be erased, this idea of mine. So in the same way you don't label mine on the bird, you don't label mine on this quite maybe dense sensation in your belly or whatever you experience. You don't put the label mine on that. And also the sense of me, the mental image of your body, or however you have a sense of I, you don't label it me or mine. It's just an experience coming and going, just like the bird, just like the cars. So there might be kind of some resistance or boredom or shut up. So this is not me, this is not mine. This is not me, this is not mine. I'm aware. I'm not my feelings, I'm aware of my feelings. I'm not my thoughts, I'm aware of my thoughts. I'm not this body, I'm aware of this body. I am aware. I'm not my addiction, I'm aware of my addiction. I'm not my anxiety, I'm aware of my anxiety. I'm not my name, I'm not my gender, I'm aware of my gender. I'm aware. And a few moments just resting with whatever is. So are there any questions? Also about, other themes which turned up today or yesterday. I don't necessarily need to bring another verse into it. Kind of covered the essential points.
I wanted to ask you about the 3 levels of compassion, because I think I was just for a moment, and then I didn't focus there, and I couldn't write it down properly. I don't think. The first one, yes, but the second and third one, the dual one.
Well, the second one is a compassion which brings the insight into impermanence or the non-static nature into the game. Yeah, so the first level of compassion is dualistic, but it's also this sense of, so I'm here, and there's a me, and there's a you, and it's real, and you suffer, and I have compassion to you. Yeah. So
and then the second one was
that is when you have an insight into anicca, one of the 3 characteristics. You have insight into when you practice vipassana.
Compassionate towards success.
No, yeah, that is a kind of symptom of that, because that's what happens, because you see that that the happiness of a person is non-static and impermanent and not reliable. So the compassion spreads also to people who are well. And usually when we talk about compassion, we talk about compassion to suffering. And so from the Buddhist point of view, also being well is in the nature of suffering, because it will pass and it is not really satisfying. And the third level of compassion is the non-dual compassion. So that's the compassion which arises when you have an insight into emptiness, which is in this what we just did. That's that's the kind of compassion which naturally arises through the insight into emptiness, into non-duality. Yeah.
Why do we have this notion of I and me and mine? Is it something that we sort of learn? Or sort of...
Yeah.
Why do we have
it? I'm still sometimes surprised when people ask me this kind of questions, as if I know. So
may I ask?
I'm sure you have an answer to that.
No, but I think, I mean, I can say something, but that doesn't mean that it's, I don't know. How I understood is that as soon as you don't attach this I and me and mine word on something, then you can distance from it.
Yeah, but she asked where it comes from. So the like a Buddhist part of the Buddhist answer would be, it has no cause. It is a moment of ignorance comes from a moment of ignorance comes from a moment of ignorance, and it has been like this for beginnerless time. Because a moment, the substance of a moment of ignorance needs to be a moment of ignorance. Like there needs to be, like, things doesn't come randomly from nothing, or they don't come randomly from just throwing things together and suddenly you have ignorance.
So it's already the ignorance before
it's like a kind of movement which has been triggering the next movement of ignorance. But there's also like this, if you just look into this moment, so so how is it happening that in this moment and in the next and in the next there is this contraction, me, and so this this egoic process, let's call it like that, has two components. One is the conceptual, memories, stories, words, and so on and so on. And there is a somatic aspect to it. So it's not just like this, yeah, and it's actually happening here in the left hemisphere of our brain. So this is, but it is like it mingles with a contraction in your body, like, and that contraction can be in different places. So somehow it's quite interesting that we manage to have a sense of continuity of the I, because it's always different. And we know it's like we don't have a problem to be a little girl in the morning with our husband and to be the super CIO in the afternoon. It's like completely different. And still we have a feeling there is an I there which went through the day from moment to moment. Yeah. And the little girl drives the car, the CAO drives the car, and it's me. Yeah? And also from a somatic thing, it's kind of, it can be in the throat, here, it can be here, it can be here in the belly, so it's wandering around. But it is this mingling of the narrative, you can call it the narrative self. Yeah? So the narrative self are combined with somatic experiences, which often are traumatic. So they are separating. A traumatic experience separates us and lets us collapse into this defense. Yeah, and it's so familiar. This feeling, it's happening right now. So there's, of course, right now it could be quite subtle. Because unless you get really upset with what I say, then it will get stronger. But maybe you feel quite relaxed, and it's quite, it could be kind of spread throughout the whole body or something like that. But there's always, and that makes it so real. Yeah? It makes it feel as if it's something. And so the narrative self, that's, of course, that is also, a lot of that is acquired. And it's actually necessary in the healthy development of a child to acquire that. So it's not just, something we need to get rid of, because it's also something we need, and which is part of a healthy development of a human being. No? And have you children? You don't have children, but maybe you saw children growing up, close by. Then you start to see how they start to develop that narrative self. Yeah. In the beginning, they don't know this is my hand. Yeah. They learn that, and you can observe children doing that. It's really how this contraction into the narrative self and the me is acquired. Yeah. And then it is, in some cultures, it is very pushed by the parents. Yeah. And in some cultures, it's a bit more easygoing. Yeah. They feel more part of the tribe, part of the family. So they don't use the word I so much, and so on. So they think of themselves more like, I'm part of the tribe, I'm part of the family. So there is a acquired aspect in it. But there is a subtle conceptual level, which is, conceptual. is not only like what we would kind of think, or so thoughts and memories, and so there's a more subtle conceptual level, and that's what they teach in the Tibetan tradition. When they talk about rebirth, that we are actually born with that very subtle level. So we are. It's innate. I'm not sure about that, but that's what they say, that there is so you are born already with an innate kind of I. It's more subtle than I, because you don't have any words. You can't bring words with you, but there is that kind of innate potential of this ignorance, of this narrative self, and the contraction combined with it. So this narrative self in the left hemisphere is a process. So there is no thing, like it's empty. Yeah? So that what emptiness means is empty of being something. That does not mean it does not exist. Clearly it exists. How does it exist? As an open system, as an open process. It's actually not. It's not just like disconnected. Yeah. So because it's like, I mean, all this is part of this. Yeah. So you can't isolate it. So because it is nothing, in a way. And it's really afraid to find that out. So it needs to keep on spinning. That's how it lives. If it keeps on spinning, then it falls apart, and then there is nothing. Yeah? Because it exists as that spinning. So the narrative self will never be satisfied. It will never come home, because that's its end. And so it has many tricks. And one is, I have a horrible past. I want to have another past. This yesterday shouldn't have happened. Like, so we are fine now. Yeah? I mean, right now, we have water, food. Nothing is threatening us. We are surrounded by nice people. Why are we not satisfied? Because this will never be satisfied. So it goes to yesterday. Yesterday, I shouldn't have said that. If it doesn't find something yesterday, it just goes to tomorrow. Yeah. And it has to, because that's how it lives. So it makes up. So now, do we agree that the future, that's kind of the material of the future, how it exists, is an imagination? Right. So the narrative self, which is a conceptual process, goes into imagination, because that's how it lives. It makes things up so that there is fear. And now it's a bit more difficult, this question. Do we agree that the past, the status or how it exists, is imagination? I think there's some disagreement, or possibly there seems to be a more real past than future, but it doesn't matter. So that's what this narrative self does. And then also, I mean, if it kind of has done some forgiveness, and so then it just goes into, this is not good enough. It's too hot, there should be more women here. I don't know. There should be, a Tibetan teacher, or it's like, it's too late, I'm tired, I don't understand it. You know, it's like just a constant complaining and trying to fixing, and just needing to make some drama and some dissatisfaction. So that is and there's something else. What also the narrative self does is seeking. So that's like this dissatisfaction. So this is not it. The seeking of the narrative self covers up the peace of this moment. The peace of this moment, the satisfaction of this moment. And it will do this forever. This is not it. I'm seeking. I'm a seeker.
It's out there.
Searching.
It's out there. Yeah.
Searching for different.
For contentment, for peace, for healing, for God, for relaxation, for so it's dissatisfied in its nature. The like one of the confused projection of the narrative self is the projection of separateness. I talked about that yesterday. Yeah? It creates a sense of me and the rest of the world. So it cuts unity into separate units. And by the way, this is the most important unit of all, because it happens to be me. And what happens to me is much more important than what happens to you, because I'm separate from you. And that's the narrative self talking. So it's a bit, there is, as I said, there is a necessary psychological health within that. So it's not that kind of we try. So some people call it the ego, but it's not a good word, particularly if you confuse it with the way the word ego is used by the Freudians or by the Jungians. It's completely a different thing. Of course we want to have a healthy ego. Actually, the Buddha has the most healthy ego of all. Yeah? So we want to have ego strengths, for sure. So then when people say, I need to overcome the ego or something, I think, oh shit, no. At first, there's nothing to overcome, nothing to destroy. I mean, you're fighting a hallucination. Yeah? So it's like, but on top of that, we need ego strengths. What is called ego strengths in Western psychology. A resilience, a balance, courage, yeah, creativity. So that's all part of ego strengths. We also need to learn to not just follow every whim and every urge which comes up. Like a child needs to learn that. That's also ego strengths. To kind of have a sense of, so I can't have everything at any moment. So that's also part of ego strengths. So in the Geluk tradition, the first step in the journey of realizing the illusionary nature of that parasite, I call it now parasite, just to kind of give a sense, that it is like something attached, which wants to survive, yeah, desperately in the left hemisphere. But I said before that we also need it, so it's not like, but it has, of course. I mean, it's really a nasty thing in one way, often. It really messes up this moment. I mean, it messes up every night. I mean, we're lying in the bed, we are safe, we have breakfast in the nest, yeah, and we are in hell. And we are the only mammal on this planet who can do that, because we have a very sophisticated left hemisphere. A dog, when a dog is home, maybe there's also neurotic dogs, but like cats. Yeah, so if a cat is at home and she is safe, I mean, she has no problems. She does not think about going to the doctor tomorrow. So in the Gluk tradition, the first step in this process of realizing that we are fooled by our own hallucination is to identify the hallucination. So it's called identifying the object of negation, identifying the object of refutation, gaksha in Tibetan. So that's the first step. So what we do in the beginning is we become aware. How does the sense of I, how does it appear to me? What's part of that? What's like, and fortunately we are triggered so often in our life. We have a good field of getting a sense of what is that? What is that when I say don't say this to me. So what is that? How does it appear to me? How does it feel? What's part of the narrative self for you? So that's an important step, and that already, I mean, looking at that kind of opens that space that you realize I'm not that. Obviously not, because I'm aware. You can't be that what you are aware of. I don't know. When I say that, people look at me, huh? It seems to be so obvious for me, yeah? I can't be the object. Because I need to be the subject. So if I am aware of the mental image of my body, then I'm not that because I look at it. Yeah? So for me, this is already like, yeah? So I used the example of envy yesterday. So envy appears, oh, it's not me, it's not mine. It comes and goes. I don't need to be ashamed of this. It's a conditioning. I don't need to follow it. It comes and goes. It's not me, it's not mine.
Was it always like this, or is it because you have
that's training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when I have like a very strong feeling, then maybe after when I'm over it, I can relate to what you say. But when it comes up, then
sure. Yes,
when it
sure.
comes really fast, then you just can't separate yourself.
Yeah. Yes, but many people know if you use the image of the river, so you are swept away and then tangled by the river, or you can step out and look at it. Many people are in the river their whole life. I mean, my mother, for example. Yeah. And then, I mean, if you can step out of the river once in your life, you had a successful human life. But actually, like most of the people who kind of start to practice, and they actually can do that maybe almost every day. And even if they can't do it every day, they at least remember, it's possible that I could step out. And then after a while, you also know I'm going to step out again. And that is huge difference. So then you still suffer in your crisis like before, but probably the crisis will be shorter, but you also you also kind of, you take it more easy because, so right now it seems to be really serious, but I know that I'm going to step out again. And what do we want? What kind of enlightenment do we want to have more than that? I mean, that's amazing. Yeah. And that is, I mean, you could call that, I wouldn't call it enlightenment because that word is reserved for me to that kind of Tibetan Buddhist, glorious, full-blown Buddhahood, yeah? But definitely it can be called awakening. That moment when you step out of the river, that's a genuine awakening. And that is that it doesn't happen to many people that they step out of the river and then that's it. I wouldn't put my cards onto that. It's just like 5 people in each generation. But it is an awakening. It's a kind of short experience of maybe not enlightenment, but of liberation.
What about if I'm not in the river?
Mm-hmm.
Because I found I don't get in the river that often.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to say this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't find myself swept away by emotions.
Yeah.
But they're not suppressing it. I just take them lightly in general.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like, what would you say about that? I just wondered because I think about my crisis. I'm not even sure if I have had that heavy crisis in my life.
Mm.
Because I know they will pass. I always knew I don't want to without training.
Mm.
And then I ask myself if I can't feel them, or maybe I should be more human or more micro feeling, not because I always look in the macro image. And like when people are angry about something, or well, of course there are things that upset me, but I can't swept away, and I'm always like light, which can be annoying for some people, but
yeah.
then I said, am I not emotional?
Because it's
enough?
annoying for them because their narrative self want to have drama with you. Yeah, so we feel like this kind of awakening experience brings its own particular challenges. And one is, when we use now for the narrative self, the term from Eckhart Tolle, he calls it the pain body. Maybe you can recognize what he means with that, the pain body. So my pain body wants to have your pain body because they love it. That's what they live from. So if my pain body doesn't get stirred up your pain body, then I will try harder. But if there is nothing, my pain body explodes, because it needs to fight, it needs to have drama, because that's what it lives from. Yeah? So it's a particular challenge. And I mean, there is the trap, and you mentioned it yourself, that you wonder about this. What we are not talking about is disassociation. So stepping out of the river is not describing detaching or disassociation from your experience. Yeah? And that's what, that's what sometimes people kind of, when they have an experience of, this is not my feelings. But actually they are by the riverbank because they imagine that they are there because they are afraid to feel the feelings. So that's called dissociation. It's like it is like a process which is sometimes triggered when you, as a child, you have a traumatic experience. Meaning a traumatic experience is an experience which can't be felt fully because it's too much for the system. Yeah? And then how can a child handle that overwhelm? It needs to disassociate. It goes into heaven, it contracts, so. And so that is like kind of that is something some other people also might tell you, yeah. So, but I think if you know about this and you kind of just be honest of how your experience is, and you describe it in a genuine way and with your own words, so I can see that you're not just have memorized some books from yeah, that's what people do. They memorize some non-dual phrases and then they say, but you can usually feel. So it sounds like you describing it. You have a genuine description of your experience. It's unique, and I mean unique in the way you express it, and it has its particular challenges.
It sometimes makes it hard for me to join others because there's so more about what happened. I especially come from Turkey, where it's politically and emotionally very heavy. And when I was living there, I found myself not being part of any group because I was very kind of not distant. I was feeling things, but I wasn't swept away or do those comments. I was always lighter. I was always like have my own world of lightness. So yeah, I always
just
wondered how
enjoy
I
it.
can feel more human, how I can feel more in
Yeah.
it and go
Yeah.
with it. But then
This
I
is
just know everything passes.
Yeah, so sometimes what happens is when people have a genuine awakening, they bring themselves back to their problems because they are in that situation. Yeah, so you can through concentration. so concentration, you can make, for example, anxiety bigger. Because you want to be more human, as you say. You want to be as scared as the others so that you are still part of the group. This is a possibility. So it's good to One thing is to pretend.
I can't.
You can't, okay. I pretend quite often, I must say.
I mean, I pretend in my thoughts.
I mean, no, in the sense that I take what is being said really serious. Yeah.
I
So
pretend not to.
So so if you tell me something about something difficult and that you are really suffering with this and can see that you're completely entangled, then I don't say who is it who is entangled? So here pretending sounds a bit negative. It's not the right word. It's like having the compassion to a person who is suffering from paranoia, but you know that you don't have microphones in your teeth.
What do you mean? Microphones?
No, a person. If I talk with a person of paranoia, with things like nonsense. I'm from the FBI and I have microphones in my teeth. So then I still have compassion to the suffering.
Yes. Yeah. But then I can't truly relate.
That's maybe something you can improve.
For me, it will pass, and I see it will pass, and I try to tell that person it will pass.
Yeah, but that's not helpful.
At that moment, they want drama, but I can't. I
no, they
don't
want to.
have it. Maybe not drama, maybe more compassion.
Yeah, but they don't want you to have your drama, they want to have your love.
I'll try to give them, but I just think it's very unnecessary what they're going through, because it's like total illusion.
Yeah, but that's not what they need. What they need is love. Do you have an idea how you can improve that skill?
I do my
How?
best, but
How?
I have to think, like, I don't know how I can. I mean, I love these people.
And when you say I love these people, what is that? I love these people.
I want their happiness, and
Yeah.
I want their non-suffering.
Yes, and then of course I can understand, because I recognize this feeling, because if I love someone and I want this person to be happy, I need to teach them emptiness. That's the only way. Everything else is placebo. Everything is placebo. Everything else is placebo. So that's like, but how can I get there that someone can receive the right medicine, the real medicine? Yeah. So that's, and sometimes when I would say in a situation where someone is in the drama, who is it who is in the drama? You look for that, and you will see you don't find that, and then the drama is finished. That's cruel. It can be almost cruel. Well, it's not meant like that, but it can be perceived as a lack of empathy. Yeah. But it is, you need a lot of patience. A lot of patience. Some people, they are understandably so caught up that the best, the gift they can receive is listening, love. Yeah, I can understand. Having space, not judging the feeling. And sometimes this is necessary for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And as soon as you would offer the solution, there's actually more contraction. There's a feeling of rejection, a feeling of.
But I think in this moment, people still need to feel that somebody is with them.
Yeah.
Because if I
yes.
put myself above them and saying, you have a total illusion.
Yeah.
I would be also a bit pissed off.
Obviously. Yeah.
And
this.
But I think it's dependent again on my attitude, how I
Absolutely.
stand by them.
Yes.
If I'm also drawn into the river, or I can stay, and I think it's helpful if I stay outside the river. But I'm not saying I'm not going to make my feet wet, because of you. Kind of feeling.
Yeah, this is very important, because when you have kind of stepped out of the river, so what sometimes can happen when this is so there is this movement of transcending, but with what is necessary for healthy transcending is also the including. So in Buddhism, we don't talk about transcending in the sense of removing ourselves. We transcend and include.
Yeah, because otherwise we are again in dualism, We are
yes, but also without the including, we become like detached from other people. Like, as you said, I don't remember how you said it, to be present or something like that, to be there with me. Yeah, and so and sometimes when the transcending is unhealthy, that part is gets you know, there's something. It's an unhealthy transcending, and you. So when people talk with you, they feel like you are not there with them. You don't resonate. You are somewhere else. You are in space. Yeah, and it's a kind of come back. You know, see me. I want to feel you.
Yeah, because it's not from my experience. Sometimes you can step out, but sometimes you know how to you know that you stepped out, but that somehow it's so intense that in that particular occasion you can't, and you already know because you've done that in this case usually I should not react, but and then you have someone who is saying don't react, is saying something that you already know, but still in that moment you can't do it, and that's probably the best way that you surrender and react.
Yes, and then support you. Useful support in that moment would be a friend who takes you into your arms and says,
exactly,
yeah, I can understand.
Because what happens is like you're beating yourself
Yeah,
up. You've done
that's
it
right.
already. Why am I not doing that? And if you have someone who is saying it's completely human, it's part of the way, it's part of the learning, then it feels like so nice.
Yes, and then the stepping out starts to happen.
Exactly, yes.
Because you know, big part of the being with the river is that resistance and this not wanting to feel the feelings and shame and so on and so on. Yeah. And then when someone says,
and I think that's the compassion part, because then you have to, you know yourself that you many times you failed, and you just share that experience like, come on, it's not.
Yes. This is really the best. I'm here with you, whatever it is. Don't.
Because there will be moments where I fall also just very deep into the river. So I'm not different from the other person in this way as well.
Yeah.
Even if I have moments where I maybe understand a bit better, but I will also have my bad moments.
Yeah. And for me, it's a sign when you see the other one not stepping out and you get angry, it means that there is something in you that is like, you cannot be compassionate, you want to, like, why you do that? And I have it sometimes as well. And that's, again, something that I need to take and check with myself.
Yeah, this reminds me, I used to say, I think I've stopped to say it, so I can say it again. If you have a problem, don't go to Buddhist, go to Christian. Yeah, but because Buddhists, you know, I mean, you would think that Buddhists are the people who are, you know, like to explore feelings, but actually there's not, you know. So what a Buddhist does is, wow, it's great, it's karma, it's probably purification. Right? So don't worry, it's empty. So, and of course, most of them say it because they don't want to be with you. They don't want to feel your feelings, and they are afraid of their own feelings. So they say, oh, it's all karma, it's purification, it's great that it is happening. It's a blessing of the guru. Right?
Okay.
And a Christian is just there, you know? It's carrying the cross with you. It's much nicer. I think I would prefer a Christian mentor. Yeah.
Stefan, can I ask one quick
Yes.
question? Because we have an ongoing discussion in the study group, comes and goes all the time, and we almost already formed two opposite camps of the people. Mind is brain. So all of us who have like a, let's say, scientific background of some sort. Not only you, all of us who have the scientific background kind of come with this training, which I'm sure you have been trained in as well. So I'm curious how you explain it to yourself. And then we of course know the Buddhist teaching and our own personal experience, which tell us that there's more to that than just the brain, that there's non-material part. Yet you do say that the self that is empty is created in our left, part of the brain and so on.
Yes.
So how do you reconcile?
I
And
don't.
also what kind of... and also, since we have two camps, what kind of arguments do you put in the hands of each camp? This discussion will live on for sure, even after you leave.
No, I don't think that I can add more sophistication to that. Yes, it's very important to really ponder this and explore. Because if you are like a materialist, wow, this really sucks. So, is there someone who thinks that brain and mind is the same? Yeah? No?
I mean,
So-
not
So-
not anymore. I mean, I studied psychology, and it was engraved in my brain that the brain is the mind.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
And I think I awakened when I listened to Alan Wallace, and
Yeah.
that was the first time when I thought, oh, that is also a belief that thoughts are the brain. And,
Yeah,
But it was difficult for me because
sure. Yes.
But some of us are not here, but we have more people in the
You have
brain.
like
I mean,
hardcore.
what's
the counter argument?
You have-
I mean, the
you have-
counter argument is that, I mean, if there's no brain, there's no thoughts. So that's the camp that's on the camp of.
Yeah, but you think that if there's no brain, there's no thoughts?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the counter argument? I mean, I don't have a strong position.
Yeah.
But what's the counter argument to that?
But what is the argument for it?
That if there's no brain, there's no thought. Then mind.
No,
mind
what?
is thoughts. Mind produces thoughts.
The brain.
The mind and thoughts are just kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah. But let's use brain and consciousness. Yeah?
Consciousness is a different story.
No, it's not a different story.
Mind.
consciousness.
Mind, consciousness, awareness. I'm using it as synonyms.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm talking about mind, chitta.
Okay.
Yeah? And within Buddhist psychology, chitta includes the stream of sense data and what the conceptual mind does with it, and so on and so on. That's all chitta.
Mm-hmm.
So a materialist would say chitta and brain is the same. And they would say no brain, no chitta. And that is something which you luckily kind of opened, at least, or and Alan Wallace is one of the best places because he is a physicist and he talks about this. Alan Wallace is his name, so he has written a few books about.
There's a really good podcast that we wanted to. He
So
talks about that.
yeah, so then what can I add to that? It's like, and I don't think so much about it anymore because right now, from my own experience, it seems to be absurd to think that consciousness is here somehow. I can see, of course, in my experience, correlation, but correlation is something completely different than cause and effect. If something correlates, there's no proof at all that it is cause and effect. So when people say, yeah, but there's a certain brainwave when you think like that, so what? I mean, like...
I think it's a question like, is existence is in the heart? Will there be existence if there's no heart? Kind of like that, relating it to one organ, right? Being alive doesn't mean the heart. I think I find it similar.
Yeah, we are not going to come to the final conclusion after 3,000 years of geniuses contemplating this question. But I think it's good if you want to go into, spiritual practice, Buddhist practice, in the practices of, bodhicitta, the practices of nature of consciousness. You really need to deconstruct or questioning the so-called scientific materialistic worldview, which is actually outdated completely. So if you are a scientific materialist, you have to catch up. You are still reading the books they read 100 years ago.
But Stefan, when you say to you it's absurd because of your own experience, it's experiential thing for you, and you ask everybody who feels that brain is their mind. It seems like it is a common experience. We don't think it is, yet there is a whole group of materialists who don't have that experience, or they don't believe in this experience, believe that this experience in itself is a hallucination and in fact produced by the brain. Just one of the thoughts, that there is more to it than that. So rather than those guys going for 12 years into a retreat to try to experience it, is there one argument that convinces you, or how would you?
No, I don't think so. but no, I'm not very smart. Yeah. So and there's really smart people like Alan Wallace, and there's still smart materialists. So it seems there's no argument which can really point to and convince the people like Samaras or because they are so smart you don't get them. They can outsmart you. And I don't think I don't have such a I don't feel like, because I'm also using like I did now when I said it's in the left hemisphere. That was bullshit. I don't think it's in the left hemisphere. But at that moment it was maybe a useful thing to do. It was just like something which I found helpful. So
maybe this is
the map of the scientific materialists is a good map. That's a useful thing. We have the iPhone. Yeah. There's also a lot of quantum mechanics in the iPhone, but so it's useful. But the map is not the territory. So, when I talk to a bunch of clinical psychologists, I use their map. That's fine. It's useful, and there can be a lot of useful things, in all the kind of compassion, brain science, and what happens in the brain, and mindfulness, and it's useful things. I'm not so interested in, but I can speak that language in order to communicate with these people. So I managed to give a talk about Buddhism to a bunch of clinical psychologists who are materialists, and I don't trigger anything. And I don't feel inauthentic. I don't feel like, I'm faking, I'm lying. It's just I'm using the map, and I'm there to benefit people. I'm not there to convince them that my map is the better map. I need to learn to communicate with people so that they can get something which is helpful for them. I'm not here to convince people that consciousness is independent of brain or something like that.
Couldn't an argument be that, if we think that enlightenment is basically the, shutting of the mind, there's no more the chattering of the mind, so the death of the mind. And then the next question.
So when you use mind, so it's difficult to have discussions like this, because when you say mind and just what you said doesn't fit into the definition of what mind is for me.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you say shutting of the mind, you mean shutting off what is called in Tibetan sam, of the conditioned level of mind. Or do you have a sense, because you also felt like consciousness is something else than mind?
Right, exactly. Because
But there are
my next question is, okay, if we start with that rationale that being enlightened is basically shutting the mind, or not
It gives me a shutting the mind. It sounds terrible. Don't shut your mind.
I don't want to be enlightened anymore.
Purify the mind.
Purify the mind.
Yeah, not shutting the mind.
Purify the mind. That's
Purifying the mind.
So when you purify the mind, does the mind still exist? Or are you no?
I would, yes. But this is what we talked about, right?
Yeah.
In the lunch break.
Yes.
When we talked about the self or the deep self or something like that. What is that? Isn't that mind?
Because it can't be that there is
So
mind and then
yeah, but
deep self.
but in the Buddhist, in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, that is mind.
The deep self.
The deep self.
Okay.
So there's Rigpa, that's the deep self, there's Sam, that's the conditioned level, display of our karma, and they are mixed, and purification is to purify the clouds and then the sky, and both is mind, both is awareness, both is consciousness. That would be so Sam and Rigpa. Sam, the non-moving, still mind, the empty cognizant nature, and Sam, that which covers that. And both is mind, both is chitta. In this definition, but I know that some people use awareness in different ways, mind in different ways, consciousness in different ways. Okay, so that was a lively conclusion.
You talked about, we were talking about narrative self, and you said first identify. Would that have been continue, or that was it? Is it like a,
so you get to know the object of refutation,
yeah.
so you get to know, and then you search for that, and when you search for that, you don't find it. Yeah, like you get a sense there is a I. So and then you say, okay, there's the I. Sure, there's the I. Where is it? And then you look into your body, and when you look into your body, you find millions and millions of cells and communities, and there's no control center. There's no I in here. It's like it's a system. It's an open system with no control center. And then you look into your mind and you see the same. There's 51 mental factors, there's memories and stuff like this. So, and then the non-finding of that separate solid I, which seems to be surreal, that is the experience of emptiness of the I. And then you pause in the non-finding of yourself. The other road here is in the Mahamudra tradition, where you are introduced or you're pointed to you could say the deep self, or the true self, or the bigger self. But it's a bit difficult to use names like this, because then it becomes too much of something.
they use in other things I practice or read, as that they use higher self, but also I think that's
I don't.
reference to true self.
No.
kind of resembled.
Yeah, maybe. But the higher self is like,
They use it a lot. I mean,
yeah, but that doesn't mean that it is helpful.
But I think I always imagine that to be the true self. I don't know what they mean by it, but when you say deep self.
Yeah, but we are talking about nothing.
Oh.
So when you say the higher self, it's like the higher self, and I was sent here by my higher self, and it knows already everything, and it's so wonderful to be higher self because that makes me a very good self and a very special self.
No, I think it's something that covers everything that exists, but it's, I think, contrary to nothingness. Now I see. One, in that perception, it has everything within, like the God, but you mean nothingness, so it's like...
Yeah, when I say nothingness, it's almost too much. So it's neither a nothingness nor it is a somethingness. Yeah, so, and when people talk about higher self or something, I feel a bit, they make it too much into a somethingness, which is usually also connected with the egoic process.
True.
Yeah. So that's why in the Buddhist tradition, they really try to avoid to make something out of it, so that it can't be, so that the egoic process has no chance to place its importance there. Oh yeah, I am one with everything. That's so great. Before I was this little miserable self, but now I am one with everything. It's like you want to bring your narcissistic process into awakening. You want to awake as yourself so that other people kiss your feet. Yeah. So
kiss Buddha's feet.
If I kissed Buddha's feet?
There are people in Thailand.
Yeah. I mean, that's nice. Yeah, but if okay. So sorry, this was a bit of a...
How's this practice called that we did then? Is it something, the soul thing that we did?
What?
The search for the I that you just described.
Yeah. So that is this process of identifying the object of refutation, not finding it, and then resting in the non-finding. That's the Geluk style of Lama Tsongkhapa, to meditate on the emptiness of I, the emptiness of the self.
What?
Geluk, it's one of the 4 Tibetan traditions. Geluk, Kage, Nyingma, and Sakya tradition. So there is a specific way, a specific structure, but I mean you find similar pathways in the other tradition.
So the practice is a constant search and constant non-finding.
Exactly.
Constantly.
Yes, and you have to do it again and again, unfortunately.
So
Because, at one point, I mean, unless... At one point, then it will just, then it will be fine. But what happens sometimes is people, they understand it intellectually, they do this meditation a few times, and then they feel, so I know I can't find the self, but so what? I don't, So that's the challenge, to go through this process again and again. Also, already rationally you have understood there is nothing to find, but you need to be be brought into this boom, like wow, and then again, and then again, and then again, and then again, and then maybe, I don't know, 15 years. It's like approximation. But the non-finding is not the finding of nothing. So that's like when you bring the Mahamudras. So the non-finding. So if you don't find yourself, that doesn't mean that you don't exist. Yeah. So we are not ending up in the nihilistic nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah? So we don't find ourselves, but what we find is everything. So we don't find separation, because that's made up, but we find connection. So we don't find the loss of meaning, we find meaning. So nothing exists in that way, findable, but it so nothing exists in the way it appears, but it is awesome. Oh, we have to stop. Okay. Sorry. So, but still, yeah. Dedication. Yeah. So let's take just 2 minutes. So part of the dedication is that we appreciate this weekend, that we notice how precious it is that we came together, that all the conditions came together, that we have this place, that we have these teachings. So this was a weekend spent in a meaningful way. And now whatever goodness arose, whatever inspiration arose, whatever lightness arose, insight, space, compassion, so whatever positive potential arose in this weekend, by being here, by contributing, by discussing, by reflecting, by meditating, now we share that, and we can imagine that there's the ripples, like if you throw water, if you throw a stone into the pond, there's ripples. So you imagine, you feel how there's ripples of loving awareness, filling this room, filling this place, and then going into all directions, into our lives, into the city, into our future, into our past. So ripples of love, ripples of freedom, ripples of hope, of healing. And then you can also particularly include other people, people who are in crisis, people who are dying, who are sick, who are lost. So you send them your love. And you can do that because in this space you notice that you're not separate from them. So may this weekend be a support and an inspiration for us on the path to awakening for the benefit of all. Okay, thank you very much. It was really nice.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed the weekend. Thank you, Nina and Jeff, with